Hi Sandra, thought I'd do a quick video for you to sort of talk through my ideas. I've got some very rough outline concepts for you. You did say you wanted to sort of see the scribbles, so I'm showing you it all. I'm showing you everything that I've come up with, and I thought it was the best way to go ahead with this project really, and then we'll hone it right down. We'll take one of these ideas, hopefully, or maybe a combination of a couple of the ideas, and we'll progress with it further, and then we'll make it more concrete and get into the detail. But yeah, so straight away, obviously I've been looking at all your Pinterest images and things, and it's a real balance between using these materials, and I can see that you like the curves, that you like the edgings, using the small kind of units to kind of edge things, which is a great way to do things. And you've got lovely big borders and sinuous curves. It's all very sort of traditional, a few sort of modern touches in there, but it's a fine balance really between, like we said on the phone, not going too suburban, and sort of incorporating a lot of these kind of ideas or taking influence without detracting from this beautiful environment that you've got. So I'm really keen to have a kind of blurred line boundary between what is garden and what becomes woodland, and to have a kind of very gradual effect. And I think I mentioned on the phone when we spoke last week that I went to Coton Manor Garden in Northamptonshire to sort of get some inspiration for your project. This is a kind of mood board I've put together of a few images, some from there and some from other things that I found. But their garden was very much in the same line that this is Coton Manor here and here down below and here. It's surrounded by very mature trees and woodland. Obviously it's not pine like yours, but sort of mixed deciduous and sort of conifers. But it very much frames the garden. You always get a glimpse of these big trees wherever you are in the garden. And the boundaries of sort of lawns, they've got these kind of clipped lawns and pathways, but the boundaries are very blurred where it kind of goes in between the trees. And then even under the tree canopy there was this beautiful planting, just breathtaking, of kind of woodland plants. We've got ferns and hostas and things here, which I don't know if it's even possible with all the sort of deer and things, but this kind of this idea of the sort of garden continuing through into the woodland is what I'd really like to take from Coton Manor. So I've kind of put here naturalistic woodland and shade planting towards the boundary in and amongst the tree line. But another thing that I really picked up from there, which is so important, we knew it was important anyway, are the vistas and the viewpoints and the focal points and where they're placed. So you talked about, that you knew it was important from the sunroom and the kitchen window. We want to get those views, and it might be a sort of clipped hedge pathway like this, the use of gravel and stone. It might be a Sundale feature, or this was a beautiful feature. This was a sculptural water feature just sitting on water that had been inked out with sort of inky dark water, and it went right up to the woodland edge, and then further beyond this was solid woodland. So these woodland plants kind of surrounded this feature and sort of came in, and then beyond here was not perfectly manicured lawn, because you're not going to get that with lots of trees around, but a fairly good sort of lawn grassy area. And I loved this. I loved this kind of stone feature. I loved the circles. And another thing that I want to take from this garden and incorporate into yours, a really key thing that I came away with, was the importance of sort of backdrops and framing. This is a sort of key thing in garden design, really. Whatever your garden, whether you've got boundaries, whether you've got fences or walls, or whether you've got none, it's the backdrop to any garden is really, really important. And this is a huge established yew hedge, which would take a long time to grow. But I think the use of clipped hedging, a little bit of formality this low box hedging and then this taller yew hedging behind. And then there were little glimpses and gaps in the hedge. This is an archway, this one, but we could create glimpses of the woodland throughout. And I think I'm really, really keen to incorporate this sort of hedging in that way. I think I mentioned it. I was quite excited by that. And yes, the idea of using a sort of gazebo as a focal point as well, somewhere to go to give you a journey around the garden. I very much like the idea of using a small pave unit, a small unit and gravel for some of the areas as we move away to the boundary. This is a lovely shot here of how sandstone works particularly well with gravel tones, and it's got flecky colours of sort of grey and also the amber tones. And looking back to your house, you know, it's really important that this garden, when it's built, doesn't look like it's landed from Mars or from, you know, an English country garden and ended up Speyside. It really has got to kind of tone in with its environment. And I sort of spent a lot of time studying this picture and realised that the pine tree and these enormous big Scots pines have got a kind of amber tone to them. There's a kind of pinky orangey kind of I don't know if it sounds too arty, but it's got that kind of glow about it, which I hadn't kind of really appreciated before, and perhaps it's the light as well, and the evening light. But more obvious than that as well, obviously, is that you've got this sort of amber toned wooden timber frame, window frames. So I would be keen to make sure that whatever stones we use, we pick up a little bit of the sort of grey, a little bit of this kind of grey stone feel, but also have a little bit of toning in with this kind of amber and russet tones. So that's what I meant by here. This collection of images in the top right hand corner is perhaps, you know, if we can use a combination of a sort of grey stone, natural stone, a riven stone, but then something like a small set or a clay paver. This is a clay paver here, this herringbone one here, which are long skinny units, or the little sandstone sets. They just pick up the kind of russet tones as well, and it all blends in beautifully. So so that's the overall mood that I'd like to sort of create in your garden. And now let's get on to business with what kind of shapes. I mean, it's important to get the shapes right, as you well know, because I know that you've done some of Rachel's courses. I was just looking at more of your mood boards. Yeah, I think we're very much on the same page with the small sets, the grey tones. You've picked out some granite there. And some sandstone there, I think. So yeah, we're very much on the same page with materials. And let me show you my scribbles. So I always like to start off with thumbnail, I like to call them sort of little thumbnail sketches really. This is where all my projects start. So I've come up with 5 that I think are all workable, 5 different sort of shapes, and they will both give, they have all those elements that I've just talked about from the mood board. I want to use the curved hedges, I want to use those edgings, I want to use the different materials, I want to blur the boundaries between the garden and the woodland, and I want definitely some big sinuous curves of lawn, and I'm not talking about bowling green lawns, but big wide open spaces with plants, flowers, trees for structure, and all important viewpoints and focal points. And I think that any one of these kind of layouts would do that job, but just in a slightly different way. So I've just looked at the overall shapes and proportions at this point of what would be green, what would be grass, what would be planting, and what would be sort of paving areas, and then we'll get onto the nitty-gritty later on. So I'll just let you sort of digest those, and I'll go through them one by one. I'm not going to give any preference to which one I'm sort of drawn towards. I'm going to let you decide, because you know, you'd wanted to see the sort of workings of it. So I'm going to go straight in and look more closely at option 1, and we'll just go through them all. Oops, that's not moving how I wanted it to. Okay, right, okay. So with the first option then, I know you talked about the summer house gazebo as well and the sort of positioning of that. What I've done is made that tuck behind the house here. It might be coming out a little bit too far from the house, I'm not sure, but that's for you to sort of have a look at and advise me on. So basically, oh sorry, somebody's just coming in, so don't worry about that. So basically we've got sort of steps coming out from the house, and I want to have some sort of clipped areas of formality around the sunroom. So this would be a paved terrace with the small clipped sort of box hedging that we saw at Coton Manor, and areas of paving lifted out with planting in amongst it, so that you're sort of looking out across planting and not to a big expanse of paving. And we can do all sorts of inset detail and things with the clay pavers. But I've got sort of squares and then a sort of semicircular point of paving here for this main view out here. And out here we're going to a main viewpoint and a focal point out almost at the tree line, really, right sort of tucked into the woods. It can be a sculpture or you know, whatever, a sort of sphere, a ball sphere on a piece of paving or on a gravel area. But to frame it and to sort of make sure that it's just not lost in amongst the trees, I'd like to plant 2 sort of curved hedge areas here, and then you've got a gap through the middle with this beautiful sculptural piece focal point, and planting, these squiggles are planting areas in front of the curved hedge. So then you've got a sort of sweeping curve. This doesn't have to be, you know, a designated area that's set, and it would certainly be way too costly to have this actually, you know, bordered by all the sets and everything. But it was just an idea of where the sort of formal area of kind of lawns that you would mow would kind of then meet natural woodland. And then to create these little glimpses, the curved hedge is here, and then another curved hedge here, and you've just got glimpses through from this area. This is your sort of growing area here, and for herb and vegetable potager garden, so that you can look out through here. Again, framed by 2 small sort of sculptural is not the word, but good shaped, well shaped trees here, some small trees here. I thought either side would be nice. And then again, I think to sort of link the garden more with the woodland, rather than just having all the trees outside, some small, more ornamental trees within the lawn would be really nice. And that would lead to, we're going to echo this shape. We've got these sort of square shapes that are rounded off, that have got this sort of curve of stone around them for your dining area here, a focal point here for, which is important, from the kitchen. Again, that could be like a small sphere water feature or something like the one that I saw at Coton Manor. It could be something sitting on a sort of flat pond. It's always nice to have water around a seating area, to hear running water as well. But then the main view, you come out here, and the main view from your sunroom is that you've got this beautiful big focal point of the gazebo, and again just surrounded by sort of hedging plants. And you can make this paving, or it can be gravel, or it can be edge, but all those things are sort of details that can come later. But it was really just the shapes of sort of square, formal, curved off little bits of low hedging around a terraced area, and these kind of gaps in the hedging. So obviously you can see the main shape here is almost a kind of circular lawn area here, and then a big curved area of lawn going round. Then I thought it looked a little bit empty, and I wanted to balance the gazebo, so I thought perhaps an island bed of planting and a lovely feature tree. So all of that is the first option, and let's look in more detail at option 2 on what the thought process was here. So with option 2, I've made more of a feature of this view coming along from the side of the house, and I've actually created what we sort of call a long border. It sounds quite formal, you know, if you go to these formal sort of National Trust gardens or sort of castle gardens when you go on visits. I thought that would be quite nice if you want. It really just depends where you want your main focus, but that would be quite impressive along the side of the house here, to sort of come out and have this beautiful view to a focal point, with more of a sort of parterre feature, like the one that was on the mood board, with sort of mixed planting and then these quadrants of hedges and paved. So this would be a mown grass area, and then going into a different material, either the stone or sets, pavers around in this kind of, you know, classic parterre shape, and then back to mown lawn. So this is quite a sort of formal look, and to sort of counterbalance that, with this one I decided to go more with an irregular edge of the patio. So on the first design it was quite a square patio with the formal curves. This is a more irregular edge, just going with how the paving sizes work, and having a little enclosed hedge coming round here, round the sunroom, and this would be a beautiful gravel planted bed. So you've got like a real sun trap here. It's protected from sort of gusty winds by this hedgerow here, and we've got this gravel area that goes up to the paving. It's a bit more natural and informal looking. This is your dining area, a focal point here, probably just a sort of small, like say a bird bath or a sort of sundial type feature, and then taking this curve and going up with clay pavers on a curved kind of pathway towards the gazebo, which is set slightly further away than the last one, back more towards the woods, so you've got a bit more of a journey to get there, and surrounded by hedging around it. So this is again a circle here of sort of grass, and this would be cut grass, but you know, towards the edges it would be a bit longer and perhaps a little bit more into the natural state of things, with heathers and informal planting as we head to the tree line. So that is number 2. Let's look at number 3. Okay. Number 3 is a little bit of combination of both of those concepts. As I started scribbling away and thinking of how else we could do this, I wanted to give you an option of having the gazebo building closer to the house. So on option 2, we're sort of got a journey going away to it, up to the end, almost to the boundaries. And option 3, I've sort of nestled the building closer to the house here. So I've gone with the hexagonal shape of, you know, if you wanted a hexagon summer house, and then followed that with the line of paving. So it almost becomes part of your terrace and part of your dining experience. So you've got your outdoor table here, and then you would swap, it would be sandstone or, you know, granite or whatever stone you choose, a sort of riven stone here, and then it would change to the smaller sets or pavers around the base here, with planting in amongst the paving, and a feature and focal point here around your dining terrace. This is the growing area. So that's the reason behind there. It's just reasoning behind that sort of arrangement is just to bring the summer house. If you could imagine yourself sitting and sort of eating, if you had guests round, you would sort of, some would be in the summer house, you would sort of sit there and sort of still be talking to your guests. So it's a little bit more sort of closer to the main paved area. And then for this one, I've kind of gone with a a kind of reduced version of the formal parterre of option 3, I think it was. No, this is option 3 of the first option. I'm forgetting which one's which. The one where I had the formal parterre. This is a little bit more of a reduced version of it, of just one, without the long borders and the big parterre in the middle. It would be just a smaller pathway and perhaps a feature in the middle, a sundial, and then perhaps towards a bench. I thought you could sit on a bench here looking back towards the house and across your garden from this point, with a hedging around the back. And then following the theme with the hedging, with this I've got more island beds, so swathes of planting. I started drawing big sort of swathes of planting in big beds, and then I sort of rubbed them out and created little vistas through them, so that wherever you are in the house you could catch little glimpses through these planting beds, through these gaps, which would be kind of rough grass. A little bit of hedging behind one or two of them, and on this one I think we've already got the feature gazebo and the feature focal point here, and from the sunroom I wanted to see something beyond, so I think just a fabulous ornamental tree that, you know, could work on its own towards the back there. So that's number 3. We've got 2 more to go. Hope you're okay with all of these so far and I'm not putting your head in a spin. Okay, here's number 4. So this one I started working with different shapes all together, and I started thinking about 3s and how 3 kind of lawn shapes would work, and I'm quite pleased with this, how this has panned out. I end up with this kind of squashed circle here and a rather more complete circle here, and I've offset the gazebo, and I quite like the kind of shape that it ends up with. So you've got the smaller circle of sort of gravel that could be edged or stone, with the gazebo not set centrally but set to one side, and I thought that kind of asymmetry was quite nice. And so with this, because we're going quite asymmetrical here, it's quite a modern design, this one, really. I've gone just very sort of formal around the house, and I've got a crescent shape around here with hedging and some borders, planting borders there. It means that we've got a nice oval shape here, which we haven't had before, and the viewpoint out here to a sculpture here with hedging either side. I like this idea of having little glimpses through hedges and little, you know, it's like providing a little bit of a picture frame to the woods. It's not keeping the animals out because it's got lots of holes and it's not a complete barrier, but it's just a little bit of kind of well placed framing. And then with this one, I thought we could even make a more specific kind of path almost to the woods. That we could come from this patio area with some sets and sort of head off into woodland there to make it a more obvious pathway, and the same on this side, a little pathway to the gazebo area. So that's number 4. Last but not least, I hope you haven't fallen asleep, is number 5. Okay. Oh, is this my favourite? I wasn't going to say a favourite. I like how this one's looking. I haven't looked at this for a little while. Okay, so this one is, again, looking at this big central focal point coming from the sunroom, and I thought with this one, this is more of a paved walkway rather than a grassy walkway, and we could even go quite posh with an avenue walk of trees with underplanting. So, you know, 3 or 4 or 5, however many it takes. This obviously needs to be drawn to scale. This is all just very rough proportion wise. So I might be well off here, but, you know, some very sort of architectural sort of clipped trees in an avenue with a focal point. And I've gone the opposite way around with my hedging. So because I've ended up with a sort of kidney shaped sort of lawn shape, I've come around this way with a curve, and then I've gone, this is the only one where I've come in to the garden with my hedging and my focal point here, and then it allows me to come around, and then this is naturally where you want to go back in again. So I thought that was quite interesting to sort of play with the curves of these hedges. And I just thought once I'd sort of laid this garden design out, it would be nice to have a sort of a curve this way where it sort of pinches in, where the garden pinches in the middle, just at your kitchen window. And then it would be lovely to sit here on a dining table and be surrounded and have that sort of sense of enclosure with little peeks out and viewpoints out to the open woodland. And then the gazebo is kind of hidden behind there. I know you sort of wanted it back from the sunroom. So yes, that's that one. And then it felt a little bit bare in the middle, so I've gone with an island bed and a focal point tree. And again, I thought we could go off from the planting area off to this side into the woodland and to your polytunnels on that side. This one's also got the opportunity for a large sort of sweeping island bed here. And again, this could be quite nice clipped, you know, mown lawn, and it, you know, there's no reason why it can't get a little bit sort of rougher around the edges and lead on to sort of bulb planting and the heathers and sort of woodland planting into the tree line. So that is all 5 in all their glory. Yeah, so let's just get you back to the page with all of them together. So yeah, they are very, very, very basic scribbles. All the things like edgings and paving detail and really the nitty gritty, the steps and how we get from the house down onto the patio and, you know, where the change of height will be and all those sorts of things can come later. But I just thought really I would show you this stage for now because I think you were quite keen to sort of see how it would work. And it's really just a gut instinct at this stage, I think, from you, Sandra, that, you know, which one are you drawn to, if any? Hopefully one of them draws you. You know, let me know which one you're drawn to, which one needs work, or whether it's a combination of things. But anyway, we can chat about it all. I'll let it all sink in, have a good look through them all at your own time, and perhaps we can schedule in a phone call and have a chat and you can let me know your thoughts. Okay, bye for now. I hope this is okay and I look forward to chatting with you again, Sandra. Enjoy and take your time and digest it all, and we will have a chat whenever you're ready. Okay, bye for now. Bye.